Welcome everyone. Hello from Warsaw. My name is Rachel Naomi KUDO. We are on the first day of the second round here at the competition, and I am here with two pianists who have advanced to the second round. Thank you both for being with us and sharing some of your valuable time, because I know your second stage performances are coming up. But Anthony Ratinov and Gabriele Strata, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Congratulations. It's been fun talking with you both. We've discovered that you're friends. You've known each other for some time now, almost a decade. You met at school.
Almost a decade.
Yeah.
And of course, the love for Chopin has brought you both here.
Yep.
Let's just talk about how did you feel? I think it's your first time competing here, being here. How did that stage feel? And you'll get to be there again, but the first round, you were both on the last day, on the very end of the first round. Was that waiting a little bit nerve-wracking for you, or did you actually like the fact that you were towards the end of the competition?
I think for me, it definitely felt like there was some very strong emotional and musical build-up that took place in the days preceding. Because actually, yeah, we talked a lot about this with Anthony, but we've been in Warsaw for over 10 days without having played a single note, which rarely happens, I think, in piano competitions. And I do like that, actually, because it made us familiar with the environment and the context, and made it maybe a little bit easier to just play, because we felt a little bit more at home. It became our reality in a way, and we had time to adapt, I think, psychologically also. So I'm happy, and also there was a sort of urge by the end of it to just go on stage and let it out. So I appreciate that we got to play, and also we didn't have to wait for results, which is nice.
That's true.
Which is maybe the best part.
The waiting around, yes. Anthony, how did you feel?
I felt similarly. I felt that we had been here for such a long time, and there was all this excitement and anticipation building. And especially the last day, which was the day of the round, I felt that I had a lot of thoughts in my mind all day, and I was almost overwhelmed with my own kind of emotions and expectations. But as soon as I walked onto the stage, something just clicked, and I felt true excitement and kind of calm. And I don't know if it was the spirit of Chopin taking over me or guiding me, but it felt really good on stage. And everybody, says that it's a very comfortable hall to play in, but you don't really believe it until you experience it. So I really enjoyed the performance, and I think it's also because we've been here for so long and we acclimated. And now that, we only have, 3 or 4 days before the second round, it all of a sudden feels like there's a time crunch, because we were here for almost 10 days before. But
so it was a nice thing to be towards the end.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Just out of curiosity, did you go into the hall before your performances to listen to anybody else? Were you curious about the acoustics? No.
I did not. I really did not want to listen to anybody. I think I just really need my bubble somehow, and be able to just think about my own path in the competition. I have had the opportunity to listen from outside in different situations, so I have an idea also from recordings of my own playing in the hall during the piano selection. So I had an idea what it sounded like, and I think that was enough for me. And in any case, I think it changes a lot depending on who's playing, like the way the sound will carry through. So it's always relative in any case.
And Anthony, you also didn't go into the hall.
No, I mean, there's nothing that I would have heard that would have made me play differently. I already knew what I was going to do, pretty much. I already acclimated to the instrument during the piano selection, and I've played on such instruments for so many years. But you still don't quite know what to expect, especially with people there. And it's truly a privilege to have a packed hall. That was probably my favorite component of the performance. It's just this instant gratification.
I think it's not just the number of people, but also their energy,
the
right?
energy,
the expectation,
yes.
But it's all warm, it's positive.
Yes,
it's
the silence during the pieces and aggressive coughing in between pieces. It's magical. And so, yeah, I kind of wanted to experience that for the first time being on stage and not necessarily as an audience member. That's just
I thought it was really interesting what you said about, having, if you had gone into the hall, nothing would have changed your interpretation. I mean, that's, well, no. And sometimes, I mean, it depends. I will hear like a recording or whatnot, and it works for them, right? But can I, like, of course you can't imitate. But I guess my question is, in preparing for this competition, being a pianist, of course Chopin is a part of your repertoire, but it's not necessarily 100%. But you're both veterans of competitions, prize winners. How has this experience been, particularly, immersing yourself in his music? Has that taught you anything specifically that you hadn't known about yourself before, or learned about your piano playing, and it improved, or made you think in a different way? Because of course, when you have to play contemporary music or Russian music, classical, of course, that's a whole nother genre. So what especially about Chopin, and why? What compelled you to compete?
Well, actually, I mean, I've always had a very, very strong and special bond with Chopin's music. Is the reason I started playing the piano in the first place. So there was always, from the very beginning, a very...
You mentioned that you don't come from a musical family.
I do not.
But so was your first... The music you heard was Chopin's music?
I'm not sure if it was exactly Chopin. There was definitely one of the first. And I don't come from a musical family, but my grandma plays the piano amateurly. And especially when I was a kid, I remember very clearly just going to her house and requesting a specific nocturne and waltzes that she would play for me. And then I would just fall in love and wanted to emulate that, obviously.
Is she outside of Vicenza?
She's in Padova,
Padova.
which is all the same area.
City. Yes.
Yes. So that's how it all started. So I've always played a lot of Chopin throughout my life. There was always this very strong bond, and actually, my decision in a way to compete, but subconsciously, not consciously, came with the last Chopin competition. Because prior to that, I had taken quite a long break from playing Chopin. And following the 18th competition, I remember just thinking, oh, it's been a while I haven't played anything. I want to dive into this music again. And I started learning the complete ballades. And I started performing that, and then gradually, I think...
As a set?
As a set.
Oh.
And
how was that?
Playing the ballades?
I've never done that.
Oh, it's incredible.
Okay.
Absolutely incredible.
You go from 1 to 4, or do you do them?
I did go, actually, I've done both ways, chronologically, or actually the way I performed it the most was the ballades were interspersed with French keyboard music from Baroque to contemporary. So that was a program that I had going on for a bit, but I have also played them as a chronological set. And so that's where it started from, and then I think it was just a gradual build-up. The actual decision of competing here in Warsaw came quite late, actually, but it was also natural because I had been playing the repertoire for a very long time.
You kind of gradually put
subconsciously.
More and more,
I think maybe I wasn't rationally acknowledging what was going on, but somehow I ended up here.
And Anthony, what about yourself?
I think for me, this whole competition experience has felt more like a project rather than a competition. I think I may have done a little bit too many regular competitions, if you will, in a short amount of time, meaning, not all one composer. And by the end, the last competition was in 2024 in Montreal. And even though I did have a successful and enjoyable experience, I also found myself a little traumatized by the concept of competing. And I said, if I am to compete again, there's going to be something different about it. And to me, this isn't a competition as much as it is a celebration of this extraordinary composer. And I mean, I have a remarkably similar story to Gabi with my decision to do this. I played a lot of Chopin growing up. Also, my grandmother was my teacher, and because of that, I took a long break from Chopin as well to kind of fill in the other gaps. And then I remember I had one concert in 2022, and I played a Chopin sonata, and my dad called me and said, you need to end this break now. You need to play more Chopin. And so that's when the idea of doing more Chopin kind of came into my mind. And really, it's been just a little over a year of preparing for this, which is a lot of time to fully dive into something like this. But it both feels like too much and also like not enough time. It's just the beginning of a lifelong journey with this music. But there's just something different about it, something about really diving in and getting to know Chopin and having this dialogue with him and his music. It's very special.
You mentioned your father called you in 2022 and said you need to play more Chopin. You mentioned to me right before this that you actually took a longer break from piano.
Yes.
Your grandmother was your teacher.
Yes.
And I asked if that was at all a pressure for you, and you actually said yes.
Yes. I mean, I was about 12 when I kind of naturally started to rebel. I think we all go through these phases. For me, my rebellion was pushing against full-time piano playing, which my grandma had really been insisting on. And so it became maybe 30 minutes to 1 hour of playing piano a week for about 4 to 5 years. So I never fully stopped, but I really put it on the side. And then I kind of, at the more adult age of 17 or 18, which is scarily the age of a lot of competitors here, that's when I kind of decided, okay, I actually want to do this for my own reasons.
I see. So that independence was very...
I think it was necessary for me to fully commit to it. And even then it took many years before I committed to this as a career path, which happened right around the pandemic in 2020.
And you mentioned that your last competition was 2024. Right?
Yes, I guess it was 2025, the U.S. Chopin competition.
Oh, no, but it's just amazing because, I mean, it's a lot of dedication, but also, of course, to have so much in your fingers, in your repertoire, that's incredible. So I think the fact that you took a break and came back, that's really, what a beautiful journey. And I'm glad you're sharing your music with us. Let's talk about repertoire. You mentioned you played all 4 ballades, but both of you chose the 3rd ballade in your first round. And do they happen to be your favorites? The 3rd in particular, or?
I don't know if I can pick a favorite ballad. I love all of them for different reasons. What I like about the 3rd ballad is that maybe it's the slightly it's the only one that doesn't end in a tragic way.
Yes, it's the most uplifting
It's the most uplifting one. And there's something
real,
we need positivity, especially in these times. But there's some quite elusive quality to it, actually, I find, that is very charming.
Yeah.
And I thought in the context of a first round program, that's what would suit me best. It's a very difficult piece, more difficult than I anticipated when I programmed it.
I totally agree. It's very deceptive.
It's very deceptive, exactly. When I programmed it, of course I had played it, but when you prepare for something like this, you really try to just raise the bar as high as it can possibly be, and there's really no ceiling for that. But it's a piece that really puts you to the test in a way, and I appreciate having done this in-depth work on this music.
And Anthony, what about yourself?
I also biographically have played all 4 ballades, although at very different stages. The first ballade was my first ballade when I was very young, and then I did the 4th ballade when I was far too young. So both of those were kind of off limits for me. And then, actually, I had never played Ballade 3 until after the U.S. Chopin competition, because in Miami just earlier this year, I did the 2nd ballade in the first round. It's a great piece. I don't mean to shade the 2nd ballade, but I never quite clicked with it. And I felt, also my dad told me over the phone, he said, out of everything you played, the 2nd ballade is the one piece where you didn't sound like yourself.
Wow.
And I had never played the 3rd ballade before, but I just had this itch to play it. I almost felt like the piece was calling to me, and I said, okay, there's 9 months before Warsaw, and it ended up being my favorite piece to prepare, and it's just, I think it's one of the most perfect pieces Chopin ever wrote. That and Polonus Fantasy are like the 2 kind of little spheres. in my Chopin world. And so it's just been a joy to kind of discover this piece and have a relatively fresh approach to it. And it gave me something to look forward to in the first round.
And that took a lot of courage, if I may say, to put one of your newest pieces right in the first round. I think most people would say, okay, I need to be comfortable, like, you know.
Well, I just kind of committed to it, and
Yeah.
I don't think I've even touched Ballade 2 since I played it at the US Chopin
It's okay,
competition. I
you
just
leave
knew
it be.
I left it there. Maybe I'll come back to it one day, but
Yeah.
the decision was clear for me.
Do you guys have a favorite Chopin piece? Like one?
I have a very, very deep love for Polonaise Fantasy, which is also a very new piece for me.
Did you both learn it for the competition?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it's a very new piece for me, but somehow there's a very strong connection. It feels very natural, and I mean, of course, it's one of Chopin's deepest and most profound works. So.
Very elusive.
Yes, also very
Just
elusive.
like the third ballade.
Yeah, maybe I like elusiveness.
I think that makes sense because I think in a way like there's no such thing as perfection and that we're reaching a goal. No, it will keep on striving,
course,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, these particular compositions I think especially highlight that quality.
Yeah.
What about the second concerto? Because you both chose the second concerto, which I love.
Well, I'm just now realizing how many similarities we have musically
Yeah, of
because
course.
Polonaise Fantasy and Ballade 3 are my two favorite Chopin pieces. But I mean, the second concerto, it's also a piece that I kind of had an unusual experience with. Growing up my whole life, I always preferred the first piano concerto in E minor, and my grandma always preferred the second, and she always really wanted me to play the F minor, and I kind of pushed back at it. Once again, a recurring theme. And then I was asked to play it a little over a year ago, and so I had no choice but to learn the F minor, and I think it was just love at first sight. It's the type of piece that I had to live with and kind of occupy that space. But yeah, I think it also just, it suits me, and it's, you know, I can't see myself playing any other concerto here.
What about you?
Also the same for me. I think with just pieces in general, there is some pieces of music just call you. There's something about it that, as you say, you kind of itch to play. I had this also with the second concerto. Also, I have never played the first, and I had performed the second one in the past. So, of course, if you put a repertoire in the finals of a competition like this, you need to have something that you've already performed and that you're comfortable with. So the choice was quite natural and obvious for me.
And you both, I think, have some unique choices in your repertoire coming up, right? Opus 9, number 1, right? And Bolero.
And Bolero,
And I saw
yes.
also a
Ole.
Moderato. Okay, what are these pieces, Gabriele? Tell us, please. Opus 9, number 1.
Oh, we all know.
Yes.
But this piece, I just, again, I mean, I keep coming back to it, but it's just one of these pieces for me that I don't know, I just feel it in my blood. It's something that I just enjoy playing so much. It feels, for me, natural, and also it's just so beautiful and melancholic. And the Bolero, incredibly underrated piece.
Excited to hear it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous, and it has the spark of a relatively young Chopin. So of course it has the brilliance. It's still more Polish than Spanish, so I don't know if he was trying to emulate some. There's debate over that, but no, it shows a lot, and I like to include something that maybe is a little bit less heard, especially in a context like this, where of course the repertoire is broad but still limited.
Yeah.
So to give a bit of variety, you know,
Yeah.
while of course having the staple repertoire, which we all play and
I'm sure we'd
play.
all appreciate that. And Anthony, we just have a minute, but I know you have also a couple impromptus
Yes,
in your next
impromptus.
round. I know also a tarantella.
Also a
later on.
tarantella, hopefully, so
Yeah.
stay tuned.
So you felt the same way to kind of feature a little bit of.
Yeah, well, the impromptu is, the first impromptu is one of the first Chopin pieces I ever played, so to me it never felt like a strange choice, but the second impromptu was something I came to a little later in life and just fell in love with it, and I'm really excited to play it in the second round.
I think we really appreciate, I mean, of course, your love for music, but perhaps the jurors too will love to hear a little bit of freshness,
Palate
like you said.
cleanser.
Yes. Let's see. For our last question, if you could play one piece for Chopin, what would it be?
Maybe the first nocturne, actually.
First nocturne.
Yeah.
Okay. And Anthony?
I would play Polonaise Fantasy.
Oh, he would play. Okay, let me reverse that. If you can hear Chopin play one piece.
Maybe Polonaise Fantasy. Don't say first nocturne.
I would hear the Nocturne Opus 62 number 1, which I played, because I'm just really curious what he wanted to be done with that piece, you know?
I
I mean, I love the piece and everybody does their own thing, but I just want to go right to the source and just find out what
Yes. Yes, that would
very
be
mysterious
That
to
would
me.
be incredible. Well, thank you both so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. It's been such a pleasure and a lot of fun chatting
you.
here. We're looking forward to your performances on Sunday. Very best of luck, and we hope you keep going on
Thank
after
you
that.
so
very much.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on the second stage, first day of Chopin Piano Competition. This was Chopin Talk. Thank you.